Rain pours over the ruins of the Palace of Heavenly Demon, where the old man in blue, a grand perfection chi-building cultivator, descends with dozens of his disciples. Amidst the blood and debris, young Hoon stands with only a broken saber, barely upright, while the protagonist lies trapped and helpless, unable to aid him. The old man offers young Hoon a chance to join their cultivation clan, recognizing that his 5 energies converging to the origin mirrors the cultivator's own spiritual roots. Though the cultivators mockingly encourage him, it's clear to the protagonist that it's a trap. Despite his injuries, young Hoon refuses to submit, claiming he's gained enlightenment from the desperate battle and completed the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. With a final surge of strength, he unleashes a hidden technique, slicing through space itself and escaping the encirclement, leaving the cultivators in pursuit. The protagonist, left behind and dismissed as a mere mortal, digs himself out from the wreckage, crushed by his weakness. He finds the survivors, all but first-rate warriors, and rallies them as the new leader. Knowing they cannot face the martial world head-on, he transforms the remnants of the palace into Guyongak, an intelligence organization, using his knowledge and skills to manipulate and control information throughout Yangguo. Years pass as Guyongak grows to dominate the information market, erasing all ties to their criminal past. Yet the protagonist's own martial progress stalls at the threshold of late first rate. As his body ages and time grows short, young Hoon returns briefly, guiding him through the final steps to sword and body unity. He leaves behind a new, thicker manual, record of gazing cultivation and exceeding martial arts, admitting that even with all these breakthroughs, martial artists cannot surpass cultivators, but at least this record offers hope and survival for future generations. Young Hoon vanishes for good, but leaves behind an evolved, severing mountain swordsmanship, now with 24 forms. The protagonist dedicates his remaining years to mastering these arts, distributing the manual to other factions, determined that even if he cannot surpass his limits, he will never again live a life of regret or powerlessness. He dies with sword in hand, closing out the 3rd cycle of his relentless struggle. After yet another regression, a sense of resignation and frustration sets in, with the realization that this cycle might be endless. When John Myung-hoon tries to strike, his movements are swiftly countered and he is paralyzed with precise pressure point techniques, only to be fed a dirt-covered herb that acts as a sedative. The group gradually begins to understand that they are stranded in a world very different from their own, as unfamiliar trees surround them and no signs of civilization are found from a treetop vantage point. With darkness approaching, teams are organized to search for their lost vehicle and shelter, but eventually everyone gathers at a cave where resourcefulness and survival skills shine through with the preparation of a meal over a bonfire. As the others rest, memories and doubts about the path of martial arts surface. Despite decades of effort in previous lives, the goal of reaching the pinnacle realm has always seemed out of reach, with the gulf between first-rate and peak masters insurmountable. Haunted by feelings of inadequacy and futility, there is a resolve to persist regardless. Alone outside in the night, sword techniques are practiced relentlessly, using a self-carved wooden sword to chase a falling leaf, cycling through the exhaustive variations of severing mountain swordsmanship. In the pursuit of enlightenment, a trance-like focus is reached, only to be interrupted by a trembling arm, a subconscious reaction to the imminent pain known from past cycles. When the moment of breakthrough slips away with this distraction, frustration boils over, but a new vow is forged, never again to let fear or hesitation rob the chance at enlightenment, no matter what the cost. The resolve is set to seize any glimmer of the way without holding back. With the memory of past failures and the pain of missed enlightenment still fresh, the morning begins with a drastic act, an arm offered to a mystical fox as a symbol of severing hesitation. After the fox departs, days blur in relentless sword practice, but enlightenment stubbornly eludes reach. The world grows harsher, cultivators attack, colleagues are kidnapped, and only after Sea Dragon King Seo Whale snatches deputy manager. Oh, does the sword finally lower? A final meal is shared with the last companions, bittersweet and laced with resignation, before Manager Kim's awakening draws the attention of an old man atop a giant puppet. In the chaos that follows, a spatial rift swallows two away from the last sight of a desperate hand reaching out. Awakening in the branches of a tree, the world is once again unfamiliar but not unknown. With Kim Young-hoon found and helped down, the journey begins toward the nearest city. Along the way, skills are shared, literacy and martial arts taught, and in an astonishingly short span, Kim Young-hoon becomes a peak master, achieving the fabled three flowers gather at the summit. Yet the joy is hollow, haunted by memories of past cycles where hope turned to despair and martial mastery led only to resignation or transformation into a cultivator. So, a parting is proposed, each to walk their own path, reuniting only every 2 years. The separation is painful but necessary. Staying together only promises a repetition of old tragedies. Setting out alone, the next destination is Seokyung City, but caution steers away from the powerful sect. Instead, the Hall of Eight respects a reputable but modest sect becomes the stage for a challenge. The initial suspicion of the gatekeepers dissolves with a single demonstration of sword energy, and soon the sparring ground is set for a duel with the sect's master. The battle is fierce and respectful, a dance of whip and sword, each move met and counted with skill and honor. As the contest escalates, sword energy and internal force surge. Techniques flow from memory and instinct, and the master is finally bested. Victory is met not with arrogance, but with humility and gratitude for the learning gained. Leaving the Hall of Eight, respects, the resolve hardens to seek out more honorable duels, to grow, and ultimately to ascend to the pinnacle realm in this lifetime, no matter the loneliness or struggle required. After challenging and dueling mid-sized factions throughout Seokyung City, both righteous and unorthodox, Seo Yun-hyun gains a reputation as a relentless fighter, especially after surviving the brutal, continuous battles imposed by the unorthodox Hoijang faction. Facing poisonous tricks in overwhelming numbers, he adapts by using poison and hostages himself, barely escaping after days of fighting. He continues his mad quest, dueling through countless sects, relying on stimulants and every tool at his disposal, earning the nickname Infinite Fighting Spirit. Despite 2 years of ceaseless combat, his progress stalls at late first rate, unable to reach the pinnacle realm. Reuniting with Kim Young-hoon as promised, Seo notes Young-hoon's meteoric rise. Now one of the three great warriors, his techniques surpassing even the protagonist's most decisive moves. After a friendly but humbling duel, Young-hoon offers advice and guidance before departing again, their paths diverging as Seo prioritizes real combat over organizational roles. 3 more years pass in a blur of battles. Seo's body bears the scars of his journey, but his progress remains stagnant, while Kim Young-hoon, now rejuvenated by reaching the 5 energies converging to the origin, stands at the peak, unmatched in Young-wo. Kim Young-hoon proposes that Seo join him in founding a new sect, but Seo refuses, valuing every moment for his own growth over the distractions of leadership. Despite the widening gap between them, Seo remains committed to his solitary pursuit, determined to cross the wall of the pinnacle realm through relentless struggle, even as others ascend effortlessly by virtue of their talent. The years roll on, with Seo choosing the hard road of endless duels and survival, convinced that only madness and perseverance can let him glimpse the world seen by true geniuses. Rain pattered against the cave as years quietly slipped by. 15 since Kim Young-hoon unified the martial world and became the Wulin Alliance's first leader. Though once a beacon of power, he soon vanished into seclusion, leaving only rumors of battles with cultivators and whispers of his struggles in the shadows beyond the martial world. Time wore on, and the ache of separation faded, even for those closest to him. In these years, reputations grew. The protagonist became known as the Infinite Fighting Monster, his sword skills honed to near perfection through relentless duels and practice. Yet, despite erasing every flaw from his swordsmanship and even defeating every late first-rate opponent, the barrier to the pinnacle realm remained insurmountable. The world offered no answers, only rain and the echo of his own frustration. In a moment of rare reunion, Kim Young-hoon reappeared, haggard but vibrant, recounting his clashes with cultivators, admitting for the first time that he'd survived an encounter with a core formation cultivator. The revelation sparked hope. Perhaps, in this life, it was possible for martial artists to challenge even cultivators. But Kim Young-hoon's visit was also to leave behind his insights, asking his old friend to safeguard them for the future, and to attempt a new, grueling task, maintaining sword energy all day. The protagonist's journey continued, battling exhaustion and pain as he forced himself to embody unity with his sword, even as the task seemed beyond reason. Madness, it seemed, was the only way for one without talent to catch up to a genius. Years passed. The impossible training became second nature, pushing the limits of willpower and body. Each time Kim Young-hoon returned, he brought new scars, new tales of victory, cutting off the hands of core formation cultivators, escaping death, and always leaving behind another volume of hard-won insight. Each visit brought a new task, each more impossible than the last, to remember every detail of the world, all sounds, all sensations, to become a living vessel of awareness. The protagonist's progress was slow, but real. His understanding of sword energy deepened, his spatial awareness sharpened, and he could even last longer against peak masters, if only for a few seconds more. Still, the pinnacle realm remained elusive. Kim Young-hoon, now able to peer into the difference between realms, explained that the protagonist's efforts, though bordering on madness, were simply imitations of the true vision, of the pinnacle realm, a state that could not be reached by willpower alone. Yet, despite the odds, hope still glimmered. Every sense sharpened, every technique refined, and every scrap of advice absorbed, the determination to reach the pinnacle realm remained unbroken. Another day began as all others, with relentless training, with every sense open, and with the promise that, no matter how slow the progress, the path forward remained. Decades passed in relentless pursuit of the pinnacle realm, each year adding to the weight of exhaustion and disappointment. Mastering perception across all five senses and refining sword energy to its peak, the struggle continues, pushing the limits of human ability. Despite surpassing all first-rate martial artists and even gaining the upper hand against them with ease, the barrier to truly becoming a peak master remains insurmountable. Across countless duels, even after inflicting wounds on powerful core formation cultivators and developing new techniques with the guidance and partnership of Kim Young-hoon, the protagonist still finds himself trapped below the summit. Kim Young-hoon, now a legend of unmatched martial accomplishment, returns after yet another fierce battle with cultivators, battered and dying but victorious in spirit, having finally transcended the traditional limits of martial arts. He demonstrates a new realm by unleashing a devastating sphere of Gangchi, capable of annihilating not just foes, but entire structures, and entrusts the essence of his last insights to his companion, urging him to pass on the martial arts legacy. The reunion is short-lived, pursued by a Taoist cultivator wielding the power to animate corpses as Zhang Shi. The two are hounded for days as Kim Young-hoon's wounds worsen. When finally cornered, the cultivator raises Kim Young-hoon's corpse and compels it to attack, forcing a heart-wrenching duel between master and disciple. With everything at stake, the protagonist unleashes the full depth of his Severing Mountain swordsmanship, using every move and memory, culminating in the secret technique designed to obliterate even the hope of resurrection. In the crucible of this final battle, on the brink of death, the barrier breaks. The world is reduced to red and blue lines, enemy intent, and the optimal path, heralding the long-sought vision of a peak master. For the first time, fate and talent are revealed for what they are, not heaven's gift or abandonment, but the shared struggle of those who resist their lot to the end. With one last, all-consuming sword strike, the body of his master is destroyed, his legacy preserved from desecration, and the protagonist finally grasps the realm he has sought for a lifetime. As the fourth cycle of his life concludes, there is bittersweet triumph in overcoming fate, if only for a moment, through the unyielding will to resist. Another cycle begins, and the long-sought moment of ascension arrives at last. The thrill of having reached the peak is overwhelming, a victory hard-fought through countless regression. While Jeon Myung-hoon tries to provoke a reaction, every attack is easily evaded, even with eyes closed. Instead of relying on old habits of prediction, an entirely new perception emerges. The world now overlaid with vivid red and blue lines. Red reveals the intent and path of an opponent's attack, while blue marks their vulnerabilities and the optimal route to strike. This is no mere guesswork. It's the true vision of a peak master, the realm of red and blue that had been a mystery until now. Yet, this newfound power comes with a price. Brain burns, nose bleeds, and pain intensifies with every moment that vision is maintained. Only by quickly subduing Jeon Myung-hoon and retreating to the quiet of night does the nature of the pinnacle realm become clear, not just a matter of senses, but a taxing visualization that overloads the mind. While watching autumn leaves fall, the blue lines become visible, showing thousands of optimal paths. Even with a blunt branch following these lines allows every leaf to be sliced in half, a feat impossible before. This proves the overwhelming power of the Peak Master's vision, one that could dismantle a crowd of first-rate masters single-handedly, as imagined through a midnight sword dance. Still, the pain from prolonged use is unbearable. Seeking a solution, medicinal yellow bamboo roots are consumed, flooding the body with spiritual power and increasing reserves of internal energy beyond what decades of training had achieved before. The vision can now be held much longer, yet the burning returns eventually. The only answer is relentless training. Harden the mind and brain to this extraordinary perception. The new goal becomes clear: to reach the legendary realm where three colors appear. The three flowers gather at the summit. The divide between first rate and peak once seemed impossible, but now advancement to this next height feels within reach. With Kim Young-hoon nearby and precious martial insights in hand, the path forward is illuminated by determination and the rising sun, a promise to overcome every barrier and step ever closer to true cultivation. At dawn, the three-tailed fox appeared, immense and imposing, just as in previous lives. When the fox approached for its tribute, a rush of curiosity inspired the use of the Peak Master's vision. The sight was overwhelming. Red did not appear as simple attack lines, but engulfed the entire space as a solid, living domain radiating from the fox's forehead. Against such a presence, resistance seemed meaningless. Days later, when cultivators arrived, they too radiated the same overwhelming red, dominating the world around them. This revealed the true gap between peak martial artists and cultivators. While martial masters perceive lines, the intent of cultivators occupies three-dimensional space, leaving no room to contest their dominance. After these realizations, Sea Dragon King Seo Hae-wall appeared to take deputy manager. Oh, the nature of the cultivator's domain was explained. It was divine consciousness, an extension of mind that allowed them to control and sense everything within their range, something even spiritual creatures like the fox shared. Before long, a grotesque figure came from Manager Kim, pushing both protagonist and Kim Young-hoon into a spatial rift. Upon awakening, they found themselves underwater. After saving Kim Young-hoon from drowning, the duo made their way to shore, where the protagonist recognized the setting as Chickenhead Lake near Changho City. Spotting a building on the water, he went to investigate, recalling it as the lair of the Chicken Waterway Fort, a den of water bandits. The bandits mocked and tried to haze him, but he endured their taunts and urine, responding only when one attacked. With a wooden stick, he swiftly dispatched the bandits, showing no mercy to anyone who had innocent blood on their hands. Inside, he found a scene of debauchery and cruelty. With the vision of a peak master, the bandits' attacks became meaningless. Red lines marked every intent, and blue lines guided every counter. Blindly and effortlessly, he cut them down with only basic sword techniques, moving through the carnage until not a single threat remained. Rescuing the captured women and captives, he retrieved clothing and the hidden stash of the bandit leader, then helped himself to the leader's garments and silver before introducing himself by the title Infinite Fighting Monster. Returning to Kim Young-hoon with new clothes and a plausible story, the two prepared to set out for Changho City. Reflecting on how easily he had done in moments what had once taken a day of scheming and violence, he realized the true difference between first-rate and peak mastery. With the abilities of a peak master, the possibilities of this new life felt boundless, more promising than ever before. After settling in Changho City with Kim Young-hoon and spending the loot from defeated bandits on new identities and a manner, time passed quickly. Kim Young-hoon, under diligent tutelage, rapidly achieved the rare realm of three flowers. Gather at the summit, his growth spurred by first-rate martial arts instruction and the influence of a peak master at his side. Their camaraderie sparked a friendly but fierce rivalry, culminating in a sparring match where both fought with all their skill, red and blue lines of intent and optimal attack flickering between them. The duel was intense and even, but resourcefulness and years of combat experience gave the advantage, and with a clever use of hidden weapons and complex sword techniques, the fight was narrowly won. Kim Young-hoon, ever the prodigy, grew stronger even during the battle, and it was clear this would be the last time he could be bested. A gift was exchanged, the 6-volume Gazing Cultivation and Exceeding Martial Arts Scripture, a profound text that only those at the realm of three flowers could begin to comprehend. Kim Young-hoon threw himself into its study, and months passed as he immersed himself in training, growing even more formidable. Eventually, he mastered technique from the scripture that allowed him to move undetected, a skill usually reserved for those at even higher realms, and set out into the martial world to gain combat experience. Feeling the need to stabilize his own realm, the decision was made to remain behind, training by fighting the many unorthodox sects and criminals around Chang Ho. Blindfolded and relying solely on the vision of a peak master, the days were spent honing this ability until it could be maintained all day without pain or even the use of internal energy. Over 3 years, skill and reputation grew, but Kim Young-hoon's legend soared even higher as he became the strongest in the land, leading the Wulin Alliance and gathering countless followers. When Kim Young-hoon offered a position as his deputy, it was declined, and instead, a path into the imperial court was chosen, hoping for deeper contact with the cultivator clans rumored to be entangled with the imperial family. Rising quickly through the military and then the imperial guard, the position of secret protector of the emperor was attained, only to discover that the emperor and most of the royal family were cultivators, though of a lower rank than the powerful fox encountered before. Nightly, assassins attack, providing endless real combat and further sharpening skills. In hidden meetings with Kim Young-hoon, now the Wulin Alliance leader, the two discussed martial arts and the mysteries of the cultivators, especially as Kim Young-hoon sought to fully comprehend the deepest insights of the scripture before confronting the cultivators himself. Having advanced to the mid-stage of the pinnacle realm, the ability to simultaneously perceive both red and blue lines in battle was achieved, marking significant progress. In a playful contest using a liquor cup infused with internal energy, a breakthrough was made, and Kim Young-hoon soon prepared for the next step, ascending to the five energies converging to the origin. Asked to stand guard, the process was observed up close. Domains of intent formed, five spheres appeared and merged, and Kim Young-hoon underwent rejuvenation, his youth regained. The realization dawned that the consciousness and domain of martial artists at this level were similar to those of cultivators, offering a path into their techniques. Returning to daily duties, a confrontation with a peak master assassin led to further introspection about the nature of sword energy. In the midst of battle, it became clear that true sword energy was not simply an extension of swordsmanship, but the manifestation of the martial artist's own intent, fused inseparably with their technique. This understanding allowed sword energy to be freely shaped, even outside the confines of established forms. With this revelation, the sword energy transformed into the elusive sword silk, finally marking the full maturity of the mid-stage pinnacle realm after a decade of relentless pursuit. Sword silk, the materialization of sword aura, manifested at the tip of the sword, marking a step every swordsman aspired to attain. In combat with an assassin, blue and red lines of intent crossed the air, but the overwhelming mastery of sword silk allowed the tide to turn. The assassin, revealed to be a young imperial attendant with astonishing talent, fell after a hard-fought struggle. Words of bitterness spilled from her lips about the emperor, but there was no room for mercy. Afterwards, shadows lingered over the imperial palace. The emperor, protected by the shadow guard, slept soundly, his chamber insulated from the noise of constant assassination attempts, a testament to his own cultivation. The increasing frequency of these attempts, especially from Yang Guo's own people, stood out as an anomaly, as did the recently established Shadow Guard. Investigating further, records from the palace revealed a sharp decrease in orphans, beggars, and poor peasants. People who seemed to have vanished, not died from starvation or banditry. Their disappearance coincided with the unexpected ease of eradicating unorthodox factions in previous lives, hinting at a deliberate culling of the underclass and the suppression of the roots from which such groups grew. All evidence pointed toward the involvement of the Cultivator clan, working from the shadows through the royal family and government. With the retirement of Kim Young-hoon as Wulin Alliance leader, he set out to seek further enlightenment and confront the Cultivator clan armed with new intelligence provided from within the palace. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued to rise in rank, years of loyal service deepening his access to the palace's secrets. Then, a cultivator infiltrated the palace, far more dangerous than the assassins before. The Shadow Guard rallied, spells and talismans filled the air as peak martial artists clashed with the overwhelming power of a chi-refining second-star cultivator. The cultivator's talismans created barriers, repulsed attacks, and threatened instant annihilation. Coordination, courage, and experience were all that stood between the Shadow Guard and death. Amid the chaos, a plan formed. The leader would create a single opening for a decisive blow. Battling through talismanic storms, fire, and wind, the protagonist approached, relying not on intent, which was unreadable within the cultivator's domain, but on heightened senses, honed across lifetime. Allies intercepted deadly spells, and sensing the final threat, the protagonist poured every drop of internal energy into the sword. For one blinding moment, Sword Silk transcended into Sword Gang, slicing through the cultivator's defenses, a flash that promised to change the fate of the battle.